Hi, my name is Harry. I watch a lot of films. It's time to finally make the video that I've been putting off for way too long. We're already a month into 2025, and that is crazy to me, but we need to talk about all the really great movies that came out last year. I don't want to waste too much of your time. You read the title of the video, you know what we're going to be doing here, but before we get into the actual list, I want to mention some movies that I thought were great, but they just didn't end up making the cut. In no particular order, we have Dee Dee from Sean Wang. I think that this is one of the best examples of being a teenager in an internet era. After that, we have Exuma by Jung Jae-hyun. I think that this is one of the most innovative and creative horror movies that came out last year. Then we have Problemista. Julio Torres' directorial debut is heartfelt and hilarious and sweet and innovative and surreal and so many great things all at once. Then we have The First Omen by Arkasha Stevenson. This is easily the scariest movie of the year. Then we have Dune Part 2. Denis Villeneuve continues this streak of amazing movies that you need to see in a theater. Finally, we have Luca Guadagnino's Queer. This is the first time you're going to hear about him on this list. It will not be the last. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump right into the list. I can't believe it's already been 2 years since Ryusuke Hamaguchi blew me away with his 3-hour-long adaptation of Haruki Murakami's short story Drive My Car. It was an intentionally slow and meditative piece about love, grief, and what it really means to understand someone on a personal level. While Evil Does Not Exist brings a similar pace to its storytelling, the tone is completely different. Hamaguchi wrote the script as a response to the emotional power behind Eiko Ishibashi's score, and when you see the film, you can understand exactly why he decided to do that. The film begins with this beautiful and serene cinematography that's just highlighting the nature of the forest surrounding the village that the plot centers on. And it's in these moments that the score just sounds so vibrant and delightful and peaceful and gorgeous. As the story progresses, the sun begins to set, those same locations begin to feel hollow, melancholic, and at times even scary. But it's not only the tone shift that makes this film so hypnotic. The dialogue, which has always been a strong point for Hamaguchi, drives home the nuanced and incredibly personable characters. Oftentimes, Hamaguchi is using total silence to drive home the impact of what has just been spoken through these long conversations. It's a film that's suspenseful and contemplative, with no real room for fluff, and it's one that I've thought about long after the credits rolled. An erotic thriller about a female CEO beginning a kinky relationship with a younger intern is really not my type of movie, which is why it shocks me that I liked Babygirl as much as I did, but it's true. The film is as nuanced as it is sexy and spends most of its runtime exploring the power dynamics and parallels between not only the leads, Nicole Kidman and Harris Dickinson, but also the various supporting cast. There's this constant battle for power and control and stability as each of these characters is finding a new way to manipulate a situation in their favor. Even in the moments where the film starts to pull back and slow itself down to allow the viewer to become immersed in a moment, the tension never really dies. I really can't give enough praise to the script for this film, and even more so, I can't give enough praise to Nicole Kidman, who is delivering this quietly powerful performance. Her character is constantly pulling in people around her, but never letting them get any closer than she wants them to. And the film uses this character detail to its advantage as it begins to spoon-feed us information about her. It never quite gives us a full backstory for her, but it certainly lets us know exactly how she became the person that she is. But Nicole Kidman isn't the only one bringing in her A-game here. Antonio Banderas is so good in this. I'm really happy to see that he's continuing this streak of thriving in a later career performance. All in all, I think that Halina Reijn comes forward with another piece that in time is just going to be considered a classic. Sean Baker seems to have found his niche when it comes to writing these empathetic stories about sex workers. And while Anora rests within that category, it's the first time we go beyond the world of the working class, as we watch this young woman experience something of a temporary Cinderella story. Sean Baker's ability to juggle tone in this film is just genius. this tragedy that's putting on the facade of a romance and a screwball comedy at the same time. But these tone shifts never feel out of place either. The script just begins to darken and show the true colors of the film all the way into this gut-wrenching finale. It's a film that's manic and chaotic in its editing, its dialogue, even its performances. It's all so overwhelming at times. The way everyone is screaming at each other, we're cutting back and forth between different people's faces, their reactions to the dialogue that's going on. Even people in the background reacting is important to everything going on within this film. Mikey Madison, of course, is the standout here in what is going to be a career-defining performance for her, but Yura Borisov does something really special with his performance. His character has this quiet demeanor that requires the majority of his performance to be strictly through expression, and Baker is constantly and intentionally framing shots in a way where his reaction to these conversations throughout the film give us more about his character than any amount of words could convey. It's one of those films where the more it played out in the theater, the more I sat and watched everything in front of me, the more I realized I was watching something truly special. At this point, it's safe to say that Mad Max Fury Road was one of the best movies of the last decade, with some of the most interesting, entertaining, and original visuals to come from a contemporary action movie. And with Miller having to live up to a legacy like that, and this film being preceded by the beautiful but bizarre 3,000 Years of Longing, I was more than curious as to what the final product would be. And with Furiosa, George Miller comes up with a film that not only defies the expectations, but creates its own identity separate from Fury Road. He doesn't completely abandon the chaotic pedal-to-the-metal action of Fury Road, but those sequences are much further spaced out in favor of a slower-paced revenge story. Anya Taylor-Joy is one of the best actors working today, and that's further cemented as she just continues to show off her range with how action-packed and exciting this role is. But in my opinion, the real star of the show is Chris Hemsworth, who is completely losing himself in this performance of the playfully cruel cult leader Dementus. And this film creates its own identity not just by separating itself from a narrative standpoint, but from a visual standpoint as well. This film is drenched in these vibrant colors and over-the-top CGI, almost reminiscent of the Wachowski Speed Racer, and each exciting action sequence and set piece is only enhanced by this creative choice. It feels so alive and fun in a way that's completely different from Fury Road. It's electric, it's destructive, and it's incredibly satisfying to see this revenge story play out. Dev Patel's directorial debut deserves nothing but mass amounts of respect, in my opinion. This film faced so many obstacles on the way to getting made. Everything from broken cameras, venues backing out on the day of filming, Dev Patel breaking his own bones during stunts, the abrupt passing of crew members, losing its distributor. It's a miracle this film even exists. But what really blows me away isn't just that this film exists, it's that this film is as good as it is, even after all the struggles. Monkey Man is brutal, ferocious, and gritty as its story pulls inspiration from South Korean revenge stories like Old Boy, I Saw the Devil, or No Tears for the Dead. With the modern revenge film, we're often set with this somewhat passé archetype of man with a special set of skills, so as to get the story moving at Mach speed. But Monkey Man is much more interested in showing the viewer the forgotten art form of the power crawl. Our initial fight sequences are reflective of the protagonist himself, with initial feelings of overconfidence. They're sloppy and edited strangely, at times almost incoherent from being blinded by the rage. But as we reach the final act, we're treated to action sequences that are cold, calculated, and intense as his rage is manifesting into gruesome action that feels like an absolute victory lap. The storytelling in this is absolutely fantastic, with his first project quite boldly throwing shots at Hindu nationalism and its bigotry towards Muslim and trans people. For Dev Patel to accomplish something this impressive, this entertaining, and this brutal as a debut with all the odds against him, I can't wait to see what he brings to the table next. Writer Justin Kuritsky's first feature-length film happens not only to be the sexiest film of the year, But it's also the most fun, as we're seeing Luca Guadagnino at his most playful with challengers. Everything from snappy dialogue, power-shifting character dynamics, the ever-unpredictable camera work, and the bouncy editing, it's all pulled directly from the most entertaining elements of the sport that this film revolves around. Guadagnino's frequent collaborator Sayambu Mukdeepram comes through yet again to deliver us some of the most exciting and ambitious camera work of the year, as we see the court from angles and perspectives no camera has ever gone before. And this gorgeous cinematography is just so well paired with various musical numbers composed by none other than Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, who understand the necessary tone for every moment that appears on screen. But it's not only the technical aspects of this film that feel so great, as our three leads deliver some of the most lively performances of the year. Every moment shared between Mike Feist, Zendaya, and Josh O'Connor is like an adrenaline shot. Their interactions range from silly and flirtatious to intimate and intense, yet never do they lose their grip on the tension that is laced into every single line. It creates for such interesting character dynamics, as each of these characters has something the other can't live without, and the film is consistently making you aware that there really is only one solution for them to resolve their issues with each other and themselves. There's this snappy back and forth dialogue that feels exactly like what goes down in the court on this film. It's a film that loves to tease all the way up to its climactic ending and delivers all the excitement that accumulates across the runtime. The script is doing this fantastic use of non-linear storytelling, which is something that normally annoys me, but in the case of this is only used to enhance all of the tension and dynamics between each of these characters. Simply put, this is just one of the most fun and exciting movies that you're gonna watch all year. If you've kept up with Oz Perkins over the years, you'd know that his filmography has stayed kind of consistently middling. His direction is eerie, atmospheric, unsettling even, but his potential is always squandered by scripts and performances that lack the bite necessary for a director of his ability. So when it was announced that he would be taking the mantle of both writing and directing Longlegs, I couldn't help but feel excitement. That excitement would only grow stronger as the film began what could easily be considered one of the best film rollouts of the decade. Cryptic messages, bizarre teasers that felt at times like you were watching a snuff film, and an uncompromised decision to conceal Nicolas Cage's face all made the promise that what we were in for was one of the most twisted and evil horror films of all time. Did the film fulfill that promise? No, but somehow the movie still rules. A cold, cruel, and inventive FBI procedural in the vein of Seven or Silence of the Lambs, with a supernatural twist, all wrapped within a tight 100 minutes. Nicolas Cage and Micah Monroe both know exactly what their performance requires for Oz Perkins' direction style, and the two are constantly battling for the spotlight in this. There are plenty of twists and turns along the way, as Perkins delivers a story layered with horrific themes coming from his own personal life. Rian Johnson once said in an interview that a film's plot twist should be kind of predictable, because that means it's a plot twist that is believable. And I think that couldn't be more of the case here with Longlegs. While I do think that the plot twist for Longlegs is a bit predictable, it's not a bad plot twist by any stretch of the means. In fact, I think it's one of the bolder choices that the film makes. Everything that I love about Oz Perkins' film style is just on full display with Longlegs in all the right ways. This film is eerie and gross and atmospheric and unsettling even. With Longlegs, Oz Perkins finally finds his voice. In the modern film industry, it feels like body horror is something of a lost art form. And with The Substance, Coralie Fargeat makes her mission to remind the world just how great these films can be. This is a film that intends on making the viewer nauseous, not only with its disgusting and grotesque effects, but also with its overstimulating editing choices, its uncomfortable camera angles, and its absolutely inhuman sound design. When it comes to this film's stances that it makes on womanhood, fame, and aging, Fargeat makes no interest in hiding what she's trying to say. Instead, The Substance focuses on giving us one of the most entertaining and absurd character studies of the year. This film is hilarious, it's yucky, and it's audacious as we watch Elizabeth Sparkle and Sue battle quite literally for the spotlight. Demi Moore really is incredible in her performance, as she garners so much sympathy for a character that is so deeply flawed. Elizabeth kind of embodies all this selfishness, insecurity, and desperation that Hollywood can instill into a person of her age and status. And that makes Margaret Qualley's performance all the more entertaining, as she embodies all of the opposites of that when she plays what is supposed to be the better half of Elizabeth, Sue. All of these aspects culminate into a final act that had me laughing my ass off. I was giggling and squirming and gagging all the way to the final gorgeous shot of this film. And for a film that gets as silly and as absurd as this one does, I'm really shocked at how sad this film can get when you think about it. Elizabeth is a character that I really do want only good things for, but she just constantly gets in the way of herself. For this being only her sophomore film, I hope that Coralie Fargeat only continues to go up from here, and I hope that she continues to make films that are this fun and entertaining. Where do I even begin with Sing Sing? This is a film about a theatrical program within Sing Sing Correctional Facility and their journey to producing and performing an original comedy. It mostly consists of people that were formerly incarcerated and enrolled in the program this film revolves around. And as this story unfolds, each moment is spent unraveling these characters, and we see how they use the program as a way of escaping the reality that they live in. The film is incredibly bittersweet in this sense, as there's moments of intimacy, camaraderie, and brotherhood that all come together into a beautiful representation of positivity and self-expression in men's mental health. But thanks to Greg Kwedar and Clint Bentley's quietly powerful script, we never lose grip of what life is like outside of the theater program. This is such a human story that is so personal and so sympathetic. It's hard not to come out of Sing Sing feeling fulfilled by everything that you've just seen. This film is delivering a level of honesty and empathy that I don't think anything else this year was delivering, and it's because of that I think it's one of the most important to come out this year. With that being said, let's talk about my number one movie of the year. I hope I don't sound hyperbolic when I say this, but I Saw the TV Glow isn't just the most important movie of the year for me, it's probably the most important movie of the decade. This is the sophomore film from trans non-binary director Jane Schoenbrunn, whose debut, We're All Going to the World's Fair, was an oddly comforting watch for me in spite of its dark plot. It was a film that somehow managed to capture just how dangerous loneliness can be when you're young, impressionable, and vulnerable on the internet in a way that still felt authentic. And with I Saw the TV Glow, Schoenbrunn brings back those same feelings and buries them deep into the psyche of this film, as they navigate a story that is, at its core, about accepting your own queerness. With my initial viewing of this film, I was overwhelmed by every aspect of it. The deeply saturated colors, the brilliant use of visual language, the devastating performances from Justice Smith and Jack Haven, all of it just hit me like a truck. And after that viewing, I left the theater, to put it lightly, a mess. I felt like I had been given a glimpse into the life that I would be living had I not had the support system that I had I not been able to accept my own identity and the aspects of myself that I know now. And that perspective really sat with me for months until the digital release, when I was able to rewatch it with the new perspective of the effect that this film had on its audience. The top liked Letterboxd review for this film is a trans woman coming out for the first time and saying such an amazing thing out loud. Seeing so many lives change for the better as people come out of this hopeful and accepting themselves moved me in ways that no other film did this year. The main character, Owen, is a character who is so sweet and innocent and childlike. You really don't want anything bad to happen to them. But Schoenbrunn kind of uses that to their advantage as they continue to push Owen deeper into a darker and more depressing future. All of this really drives home the messaging of how horrific things can be if you're not able to accept parts of yourself that you know to be true. But there's a level of comfort that they're able to sneak into this film with the use of just one frame that reminds the viewer that even for Owen, no matter how far into your life you get, no matter how far gone you think you are, there is always a point where you can help yourself. There's always a point where things can get better for you. And I truly think that that is one of the most beautiful things that I've seen in a movie this year. It's one of those movies that I'm happy to be alive to be able to experience in a theater and to share with my friends. And that's it. That's the list. I hope you guys liked it. I hope if you guys haven't seen some of the movies on here, you go and check them out. Thanks for watching. I will see you next time.